Good evening, Africa, and welcome to the United States of Africa broadcast. I am Akosua Prempeh, and I am broadcasting live from the United States of Africa. It is Saturday, December 27th, 2025. Today, we confront a powerful truth. The fight for reparations is not a plea for historical mercy, but a non-negotiable battle for economic sovereignty. In this essential message, leading Pan-African thinkers expose the illusion of Western aid, revealing the devastating reality that for every dollar brought into Africa, $24 is taken out. The panelists argue that we must abandon the slave mentality of begging, focusing instead on collective self-reliance and mobilizing our intellectual and people power to take what is rightfully ours. They break down why capitalism is not an option for African development and discuss the crucial path to true economic independence. Before we dive into this profound conversation, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it widely. Your engagement is the fuel that connects all Africans and promotes unity across the continent.
It is not only the Europeans who enslaved us. There were other nationalities which enslaved us and so on. And perhaps why are we not focusing attention on all of our history of slavery and so on and so forth? I think that's a legitimate question, but there's a problem. We cannot assume today that the slavery, the colonialism and so on has come to an end. It has not come to an end. We are still being enslaved, we are still being colonized, our resources are still being stolen. So the first step is to stop it now. Stop it now as a first step towards going back, reviewing all that has happened, and ensuring that we can move forward into prosperity and equality. And today, I look around Africa, I look around the African world and so on. And what do I see? I don't see Arabs. I see capitalist states from the West. They are the people who are strangulating us. They are immediate target if you are to get justice. Now, one of the biggest harm that is being caused to the African people everywhere is the message that they've given us and which we have bought. The wrong message. We are being constantly told that if you are to develop as African people, if you are to resolve our problems as African people, we must follow the example of Britain, follow the example of Germany, follow the example of Holland, and follow the example of France. My brothers and sisters, I tell you from the bottom of my heart, that to follow these examples is to head straight to doom. Those are not examples for us today. And why are they not examples for us today? We have to ask the question, how do they accumulate the surpluses which enable them to build their industries, to build their financial institutions and so on? They accumulated these surpluses through slavery, through colonialism, through stealing, plunder and so on. Today, if you ask us as Africans to follow the example of Britain, which country are we going to colonize? Which people are we going to enslave? Which resources are we going to steal? That option is not available to us as Africans. The option of enslaving others is not available to us. The option of stealing resources from other places is not available to us. The only option that is available to the African people for their development is collective self-reliance in a united Africa guided by new principles of equity and of respect for each other. Colonialism, capitalism is not an option for the African people. And this is a story that our history tells very clearly. You know, many questions have been asked in the past, and I like to tell just one story, maybe two stories. There's the story of the African woman from Elimina, only a few kilometers from where we are today, sitting today. whose cat scratched her palm, and developed into a sore and so on. And this African woman used African traditional medicine, spread African traditional medicine on her sore. She was captured, accused of witchcraft, tried in the Elmina Castle, eventually was taken to Portugal for a trial for witchcraft. The lessons of this are clear. It was an attack on our medical science. It was an attack on indigenous knowledge. It is the reason, perhaps, why our medical science has not been able to develop to the level that we would have appreciated at all. You know, if you look at the human anatomy, okay, somehow African women are very well endowed in certain parts of their bodies, especially their posterior. Why? It is not our fault that European women are not that endowed. But they came to South Africa and saw a woman, and I think she's called Brenda or so, a woman, and this is well documented in history. And they saw her endowment in the posterior. What did they do? They captured this woman, took her to Europe, put her in a glass cage, and put her on exhibition. Can you imagine? They put her on exhibition. And out of humiliation and so on, she committed suicide. This is a crime against humanity, not just a crime against the African people and so on. Clear crime against humanity. You understand? Today, as we speak in this hall, why? We are constantly being reminded of the aid that is coming from the West. The aid is coming from the West. Some of our intellectuals and politicians are so stupid, excuse my language, so stupid that when they have to take actions to protect us, they point to the aid that is coming from the West and say, because of that aid, we cannot move. What is the reality? The reality is that for every dollar that the Western countries bring into Africa, they take out $24. For every dollar that they bring into Africa, they take away $24. Please let them keep their $1 and let us keep our $24 and see who will be better off. Amen. So the time has come for us to wake up, to change the narrative, to understand our history, and to apply those lessons of our history to today. Why? Ghana, this country, Ghana, the records say has gone to the IMF 18 times. Yep. And we went to the IMF so that our economy can improve. The records show that anytime you go to the IMF, our situation gets worse. Why are our leaders still trooping to the IMF? Why are our leaders still trooping to Washington to look for what? It was Einstein who said that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you expect a different result, you need a doctor to look at your brain. Perhaps it is time for our leaders to look for doctors to look at their brains.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Again, he's telling us that the reparation agenda is not purely historical, but it's also present. Now present. Mr. Crump has to go, can I say, somewhere, so I'll have to give him the chance to speak briefly. And then...
Very briefly, I'll add on to that answer. I'm an American lawyer. The courts are requiring me to get on a Zoom on a big case we have. But I wanted to just piggyback off of what you said, and I thought it was profound. Minister of Foreign Services, Samuel Bukwa, I want to thank you for your leadership on this matter, and really President Mohammed, because what he said, I repeat it again, we can't act like we're begging for something that is rightfully owed to us. We got to be very loud. You know, when our white brothers and sisters think they're entitled to something, they have righteous indignation about it. They're unapologetic about it. We have to be unapologetic about our rights to reparations as well. We cannot be whispering. We cannot be begging. The case is clear. And I say this, Mr. Moderator, just point in case. We think about the slave trade, transatlantic slave trade. They got all the records. I mean, they kept meticulous records because, you know, they treated us like property. So companies like Lloyd's of London, I mean, they have the receipts. We can go after them. We should be able to sue them. We can sue them, Professor Alfred, for quantum meris. That's the legal concept that says, well, you did the wrong, you took a thing, but now it's worth so much more. It's exponentially what you got on the return from stealing African people from their native land. And so all I'm saying, Mr. Moderator, is this here. What President Mahama was talking about, Minister Samuel, is so deep, because when we come and we're united, we say to Lloyd's of London, who I am certain is doing a lot of business in Africa today. I'm sure they're doing a lot of insurance today, Bell. What we say to them, unless you come and honor the reparations that you owe to Africa, no African country is going to allow you to do business in Africa. That's when we get their attention, when we start talking about their money, because they seem to only care about that. Well, let's communicate in the language they understand. And I apologize. I don't want to get held in contempt of court, so I'm going to have to walk off. But I thank you so much, panelists. I've learned from each of you, and I look forward to the rest of the conference learning. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Crum. Thank you very much.
First point I'd like to make is that being at the table is not about presence. It's more than that. If you sit at the table, you are blindfolded, you are dumb, and so on, you are not at the table. Being at the table is about power. It's about power relations. You take the United Nations. Why? We go to the General Assembly every September, our heads of state make speeches and so on. No matter what they say, one country in the world has a veto power and it can stop it. That is not presence. That is not presence. So, yes, we need to be at the table, and if we need to be at the table, we need to be at the table so we can make an impact, so our voices can be heard, so we can influence the cause of the world. That is what being at the table means. Now, the other question which has come up is that why is reparation necessary? You see, it depends on how you think about reparation. If you think about reparation as resetting the world, then it is more than necessary. We need to change this world. We need to construct a new world. We need to build a new world in which all people are equal. We need to build a new world in which the exploitation of our resources comes to an end. Now, you take every and any African country, you take Ghana, and you look at our maps, the story is told simply by looking at the railway lines. Have you seen the railway maps? All of the railway lines start from the areas of the concentration of wealth, where we mine gold, diamond, manganese, where there is timber, and so on. Where do they end up? They end up in the port. This is 60, 70 years after independence. So even national infrastructure needs to change. And changing national infrastructure and the mentality behind national infrastructure is part of the reparative process. Now, when we talk about reparation, we always talk as if we are going to get something from somewhere. We are not getting anything from anybody. We are taking what belongs to us. That is what reparation should be. It's a struggle, it's a fight, it's a battle. We are fighting to take what belongs to us. We are not recipients. And we are not going to justify why we need to change the world which was built on slave mentality. We are not going to beg anybody to understand why, after years of colonialism, we want to reset the world. Whether they understand or not is their business. 1.4 billion people on this continent and in the diaspora need to build a new world which answers to their development needs and aspirations. And there can be no compromise on this matter. Finish.
Thank you, thank you. No compromise. Reparations are a requirement that does not require much justification. But that comes to the African Union. You are hearing what the audience is saying and what some of our panelists are also saying. And at the end of the day, you have chosen the negotiational approach, which is the core aspect of diplomacy. You are not fighting wars. You are not slapping other people. You are trying to persuade them to see your point of view. How are you going to take on board all these suggestions and recommendations and use the current approach of diplomacy, which is all that AU does, a lot of speeches that some say may not be very productive, to get the results that we say we want? And you want to do all that, taking your 2063 agenda into consideration. Now, while you're answering that question, there are about 3 people that seem to want to ask questions. I don't know how you're going to answer.
Chairman, I know you have the prerogative and so on, but I think a quick response to what you have just said is important.
Very good. All right.
If we begin to see reparation as an act of mercy from those who colonize us, we will fail. We will not make any movement forward. It's not an act of mercy. We are not asking them to do anything for us. We are taking what belongs to us as a right. That does not mean that we are going to take guns and start shooting people in the streets and so on. That is not the purpose. What we want to do is to mobilize our intellectual power, to mobilize our people, the working people on the streets and so on, to rally around the call for reparation. That is not war. That is struggle. That is mobilizing solidarity in order to achieve objectives. We will not continue to beg forever. The time for begging is over. We have arrived at a new era where we need to struggle for what legitimately belongs to us. We are not making appeals to Europeans and capitalist states to save us. We can save ourselves, and we will struggle to save ourselves, and there'll be no compromise on that.
Very good. So we are in the second phase of the independence struggle. We had, national anthem independence and national flag independence. We're now looking for economic independence that is reparatory in content. In Latin America, we heard of Brazilians, for example, mobilizing and putting 300,000 people on the streets as part of their attempts at getting reparational justice, at least within their country and maybe flowing into other countries. They even said there are about 33 different countries coming to join them in Brazil for their recent demonstrations in favor of reparation. How does this people-oriented, mass movement-oriented reparational mobilization proposal sit in with the AU's plans? Because we haven't heard of AU asking Nigerians, one of the most populous countries in Africa, to go on the streets, or South Africans who also have a history of mobilization for their own apartheid struggle, going on the street on behalf of reparation. AU.
Yeah, I think...
Final comments from you, and I think we'll end up, please.
Yeah, I think in addition to all of the work that is happening at the political level, at the policy level, even putting together a legal reference group to begin to develop a body of legal text to support the reparations argument. No matter what we do at the level of the institutional process, at the end of the day, this is an exercise in public relations. This is a PR exercise that we have to win. If we are not able to persuade international public consciousness behind the validity and the justness of the cause, it will not go far. Because this is going to be a negotiation that's going to have to take place, and you're going to have the decision makers on the other side feel some level of pressure because now they are in a comfort zone. They can make acknowledgements without liability. They can have apologize. They can try to change the subject. So I think there is a really big piece of work that we have to do to get our own population, but also the populations in the perpetrating countries to fall in behind the reparations claim. And I think that's it's a narrative that we need to be able to refine and build and to be able to get ownership of the global population behind. I think that is the reason why ECOSOC is working a lot on the people-to-people engagement, looking at what has worked, especially in the Caribbean, in Latin America, and because we are now starting this journey to see how best we can work along those lines as well.
All right, so this reminds me, so the Americans remember that our good friend, Brother James Brown, had a song which said, "I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door and I'll get it myself." I think this may be a rephrase of what Brother Akosua Prempeh is suggesting. We have to take it. And even the Bible talks about taking certain things by force, all in the Bible. So the last two comments,
Okay. Is it on?
MC is telling us that it's time to close this session. Quick comment or question.
Okay.
One each.
Hello.
Microphone is
I'm
on.
over here. I got it first. Sorry, but I'm
Quick comment.
I'm Dr. Darashina Rahima Jones, and my question is about to activate this beyond just diplomacy. Do we have a war chest?
War chest. Do we have a war chest? Financing. Good question. Yes. Someone else here. Just ask 2-3 questions and we'll come back to it. Do you have a microphone at all? You don't have a microphone. Oh my God.
My name is Erna Casa, and we're talking about reparations. And what I'd like to know is, we're talking about reparations from those who had colonized us. I want to know, as an African who had been, my ancestors were sent away from Africa. I came back here on my own. I want my reparations. Would you consider my reparations to be that you accept me and those of others who have been away, who want to come without you asking us for thousands of dollars? I want to know, will you accept us to come back and give us land, because we come back here because we want to help to build and to work here on this continent. Why do we have to beg when we come back? This is a reparation that I and many other diasporas would like to have. I thank you.
Thank you. The Deputy Foreign Minister, if you are interested in that question, I know the Foreign Minister is not here. I have an idea of what he might say, but it's up to you if you are willing to answer it. Reparation, personal reparation. Help me to get my land, help me to get a passport, help me to resettle in Ghana or Namibia or wherever a person would like to go. Often based on their DNA. People are doing DNA tests to tell them which part of Africa they come from, and they often would like to go back to that country if it's possible. One last comment or question.
Hello, please. I have a question here. Please, I have a question here. Okay, so
quick.
I am David Amon Kote, a Pan-Africanist and a student electrical and electronics engineer from Ghana Communication Technology University. Now, my question is, I believe Pan-Africanism and the quest for reparations should be a collective effort of all Africans. But I understand there are certain Africans who do not even believe in the movement of Pan-Africanism, let alone believe in the outcome of the reparations we are pursuing. So I want to ask, what can be done about the rest of African people who do not want to engage themselves in this movement and who do not even believe in Pan-Africanism? Thank you.
All right. We'll have only one question from here, and we'll have to close.
Okay, my name is Harriet Dansua Brusanan.
Yes.
I think my question looks similar, like this, like the brother. The question is, we have to get a united front as a whole Africa, not part, but we have north, south, east, and west. To my personal experience, the North Africans, most of them don't see themselves as Africans. So how are we going to deal with that? If we have to get a united front as Africa, how are we going to handle the North Africans?
All right, thank you very much. I'm sure you are aware of the Algerian War of Independence and what Algerians are also doing, fighting for their reparations. This is what I call bilateral reparations. We discussed that earlier in the day. So there's bilateral, there's regional, there's multilateral, and there's also Pan-African, and there's the global one as well. So different kinds of reparations, and even there's personal reparations. Give me my own something, and I'll be happy. I think I'll have to ask the people trying to ask questions there to close that book. Let's have our panelists give us a last word each, and then we'll start with Professor Adi, if you don't mind. A last word to answer every question that has been asked.
Thank you very much. I want to reiterate that it's been a real honor to be part of this discussion. A couple of things that I want to say. This is not an event, it's a process. And I think that it's very important for us to understand that there's hard, plodding work that needs to be done. And there can be no reparations without preparations, okay? So we've got to do our homework. We've got to put our facts together. The lawyer was telling us what he had to do in order to do his case. That is what we have to do. It is hard, plodding work, and we need to dedicate ourselves to that. The second thing is, where's the war chest, and so on. We have to back the efforts that have been made in the past. There's a lot where we start this, we stop. We start somewhere else, we stop. We don't back each other, and so on. That is also something that we need to do. Can we make a choice about some of the credible efforts that have been made and put our power behind them and see how far we can go? I think that business of not backing up our efforts to set up institutions has been a real difficulty, and we need to work on it. We are about this people to people. The reparations will happen on many different levels. And one of those levels is ensuring that the groups that we are part of, people are part of many different groups. How can we relate to each other? And let us remember that things are happening. Groups are coming to Ghana, for example, and linking up with groups in Ghana, and trying to put one foot forward. I think that one of the things that we probably don't know is that we don't share information about the efforts that we are making. And that is very, very disconcerting. We need to do something about that. Also, this country, sometimes I feel, that the kind of expectations that are ahead of us is overwhelming. But I would say that, again, our state institutions have started certain things. Let's go forward, listen to what people need. And this lady who was talking about personal reparations, it's about being able to go to an office, being able to go to a place where there's a one-stop resolution of various problems, land, and so on. And what I will say to end because one could talk forever, but what I would say is that let us remember that these reparations are not to be looked at as something that is external. If we sort out how we deal with land, it will be good for all of us in this room and all of us in this country. So let us look at it as something that we are doing for Ghana, for the continent, and for the continent's people all over the world. And Ghana, I'm sorry, but our state institutions, we have taken up this whole idea of taking the lead in making sure that we have our year of return and the Black Star experience and all that. It's about concrete, bureaucratical setups that will support people in order for them not to feel lost as this lady feels. So I'm looking at my sister, the Minister of Tourism, and I'm saying that in terms of the initiatives that have been made, let's follow up and let's share so that people know where to go, and we will take it step by step. But it is a process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
This conversation makes it clear that the power to reset this world lies within us. The next phase of the independence struggle is economic, and it requires action from every corner of the African world. We want to hear your voice. Leave your comments below and tell us. 1. The panel argues that the time for begging is over. What is the single most powerful, non-violent action African nations can take today to enforce the demand for reparations? 2. The struggle for unity is a priority. What is one concrete step the African Union can take to immediately address the personal reparations and resettlement needs of the diaspora who want to return home?